Modern American Canasta welcomes you to this quick start video we put together to show the flow of the game. Hopefully by now you're already familiar with the card values and have an understanding of what a mixed and a pure meld is and a mixed and a pure canasta. A quick review: aces are 20 points. Every card from 4 through 7 are 5 points. 8s and up are 10 points. And the wild cards are jokers, which are 50 points, and 2s, which are 20. And it sounds like a lot to remember, but after you play a few games, it will be second nature. Additionally, a mixed canasta or a mixed meld has at least 2 natural cards and up to 2 wild cards. And a pure meld has 3 or more natural cards, no wild cards. The same is for a mixed and a pure canasta, it's just getting to 7. So a mixed canasta is up to 7, it's up to 6 natural cards with 1 wild or 5 natural cards with 2, and a pure canasta is all 7 natural cards. There are no canastas above the number 7. There's only 7, counting to 7. There are only 7 cards in a canasta. So we invite you to watch our Jumpstart to Modern American Canasta, similar to maybe one of our first lessons, so you can get a feel of how the game goes. You can get practicing with making your opening meld and all that other fun stuff. Make sure you bring a deck of cards when you watch. One thing that doesn't have an exception, because in canasta there's a lot of rules and a lot of exceptions. One thing that doesn't is that canasta always goes clockwise. Imagine you are the one sitting facing those cards. The person across from you is our partner, and then the other team is the blonde and the gentleman in the red shirt. You could tell from this picture that our partner was the dealer because they still have all their cards. The next player already replaced their 3s and picked a replacement card, and now it's our turn. The stock are the cards facing down, and the 9th card from the bottom is turned sideways. That's the turn card. That signifies that there are 8 cards underneath it, and depending on what's out on the table and how many 3s, usually most players may get up to 2 turns. However, one of the teams could end the round before that happens. The discard pile are the cards face up when people discard. So now it's our turn. We replace our 2 3s that we were dealt, and we pick 2 more for those and 1 to start our turn. So I always say 1 for me, 1 for my 3s, just to make sure that I have the right number of cards. Before I discard, I always count to make sure I have 14 cards in hand, and then discard that 14th extra card. You could see that I picked a big joker, a 5, and a 10 when I replaced my 2 3s and picked my own card. So to make it easier, we're moving the background. In the next image, we'll bring our cards back, but we just wanted to show you the stock, the turn card, the discard pile, and everybody's face down cards that they'd be holding in their hand or in a rack. So now I discard a 5. When you discard in mahjong and other games, you announce it. In canasta, you just put it down face up in the discard pile. You do not say it out loud. And as a reminder, in canasta, suits don't matter. When learning to play, sometimes it's good to keep your cards together by number, and often people find it helpful to do 2s and jokers on the left, then aces and 7s, because those are interesting cards that could come with a lot of risk and reward. And then starting from the lowest card, go 4 on up. 3s are always placed face up in front of you. They are not melded. They come into play later when we get to scoring. If you keep a 3 in your hand by accident, you cannot discard it unless you're ending the round and it's your last final face down discard. After my turn and I discarded, play goes to clockwise. Player A then replaces any 3s if they had. They do the same that we did. They pick, they discard. If they could have opened, they open and then discard. Every turn always ends with a discard. Player B does the same. If they had any 3s, they would replace them. Then they would pick, discard, or open. We're back to player C. They pick and discard, or they pick and open and then discard. And now it's our turn. What do we need in order to meet the 125 required point count to open? Well, we have a lot of points because we have a 50-point joker, a 20.2, and 2 aces. And when you open, the only time you can use aces with wild cards is when you're opening from cards in your hand. You cannot later on put down aces with wild cards if your team already opened, and you cannot pick the pack with an ace on top to open with wild cards. If you pick the pack with an ace on top to open, it must remain pure. So right now we have points. We have 70, 80, 90, 100, 110 points of just the aces, but we don't have a pure. And one of the requirements to open is also to have at least 3 natural cards as one of your meld. So we would either need a jack or a queen here, because that would give us 30 points as well as a pure. So let's see what we randomly happen to pick. A queen. So now we'd be able to open. We would have 3 queens for 30 points. We'd have 20, 40, 60 points for the aces, plus another 50 points for the big joker. Now, we could split that big joker up and put it on the jacks, and then have a meld of queens, jacks, and aces. But a critical point is keep cards in hand. All new players, the most common question we get asked is, how come the bots, which are the robot computer players, how come they're always picking everything I throw and I never get to pick the pack? The key is only meld the least amount of cards that you need to in order to open, and even once you're open, you want to keep cards in hand. So I open for our team, and then I have to discard. And you could see how I calculated the value, and then we move on. Since I was the first person to open for any team, after discarding, I get is what's known as, and people pronounce it many different ways, it's Talon, 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 Talon. I get my 4 replacement cards from the stock, however you call it. Even if I pick 3s at that point, those are part of my hand, but I don't get to put them down until my turn comes back to me, because since I discard, my turn's over. Play continues clockwise. Players pick and discard. The opponents may open. My partner doesn't open. I opened for our team. So on their turn and my turn, now we can both add and try to form those melds into canastas. Or if we have 3 natural cards like those jacks you see, I could put those down as a new meld, because any new meld of 3 or more natural cards is allowed. On my next turn, I get rid of that extra 7, because there's penalties for having more than 2 aces or 2 sevens in your hand at the end of each round. And we discuss this and way more about aces and sevens in our book, Modern American Canasta, the Complete Guide, as well as on videos on our YouTube channel. My turn starts when I either pick from the stock or do what's called picking the pack. If the current top discard, when it comes back to my turn, matches a pair I have in hand, such as 4s or jacks or 9s, I get to pick the pack and get the entire pack of cards. I don't just get that top card, I get everything underneath it. And that is how you continue to earn more and more points, because you have more cards in hand. But with canasta, it's really a game of fairness. With every reward, there's some type of risk. I get penalized if there's too many aces or sevens in my hand at the end of the round. So going forward, if I pick the pack, I know I'm going to have at least 3 sevens, because there's already that 7 that I just discarded. So play continues. Player C discarded a 4. That's now my turn. I have a pair of 4s. Since we already opened, I don't need to meet any other requirements. You can pick the pack to open, and we'll address that in another video, or it's in our book and we have great visuals explaining the requirements. So since I have the matching 4, I get to get all of those cards. What I do is I place my pair down on the table so everybody knows everything's open and nothing surreptitious about the game. I put the 4s down so they see I match the top card. Then I pick up that pack, I place the third 4 down, and then those rest of those cards are what I would like to do with. Anything I would like to do with on this turn, or I could save it for another turn. Even though I picked the pack, I still have to end my turn with a discard. There are rules on what you can end your turn, what you can discard when you pick the pack. With the reward of getting the cards, there's a risk of what you have to keep in hand. I cannot pick the pack and then discard on an empty tray an ace or a 7, a dead card which matches a closed canasta, and there's very rare exceptions that I could ever discard them anyway, but I can't discard a wild card, and I can never discard a 3. So there's a lot of rules once you pick the pack, what you are allowed to discard. As a note, if you pick the pack to open, you get those cards. You don't get that talon or talon that I just mentioned before. It's one or the other. So here are those rules again. Since the discard tray is empty, I cannot discard an ace, a 7, a dead card, which matches a closed canasta, or a wild card. On my next turn, I'm going to get rid of that 7, so I'll only have 2 in hand and I won't get penalized. This turn, I discard an 8 because I want to keep all my other cards that I have pairs of in hand in case I want to continue picking the pack. In order to end the round, your team has to have any 2 canastas. If you play in a group that requires 1 mixed or 1 pure or something like that, that is a crossover from a classic canasta version. Current Modern American Canasta, you just need any 2 canastas to end the round. And then you would need to meld all of your cards except for one final discard, which is face down. And since it's face down, the next person can't pick the pack, the round ends, and it could be any card that you're putting face down. At any time after you or your partner opened, your team is opened. So only one person opens for the team. You and your partner could add a pure meld of 3 or more natural cards with no wild cards at any time. Note that you're penalized if you have more than 2 aces or 2 sevens in hand. There's also a risk of melding those pure because if you don't finish them, there are major penalties for aces, sevens, and wild cards if they're not finished. So as a reminder, here's an adorable graphic from Modern American Canasta, the complete guide. Thank you, Dana Paz. This is keep those cards in hand because they will help you to be able to pick the pack later on. It is human nature to see that you match your partner with a lot of cards and just want to put everything down. And sometimes that might be a good strategy if the other team has a lot of penalties on the board and you just want to end the round. But usually you want to keep cards in hand to keep picking that pack. So you can complete a canasta when you have 6 cards that match in a meld. You turn that 6 card perpendicular, and that signifies there's only one more card needed. Here we needed a 4 or a wild card because we only had one wild card down. Now we have a mixed canasta of 4s. We would stack these in a pile, and we would keep a black 4 on top, and that helps expedite scoring when we get to the end of the round. Pure canastas. Once several natural cards are melded, meaning no wild cards, it's pure. Those cards are stacked, and a red card from the number is placed on top. So here we have a pure canasta of queens, and that'll help us with scoring when we get to the end of the round. Speaking of the end of the round, each round ends when either a player goes out by having 2 or more canastas, and they're able to meld all but their final discard, which is face down. That's one way. Another way is when there's no more cards to pick. The stock's depleted. And when that's the case, the next player, after somebody picks up a card and discards, that discard is still live because even though the stock is empty, the next player can still pick the pack. So play defensively the whole round. Another way the round ends is if a player gets a special hand. And that, if you're coming over from poker or mahjong, that's when you have a predetermined combination of exactly 14 cards. And that we're going to discuss in later videos, as well as in our book, we have an entire listing and values and discussions of making a special hand. After all this, the current round is scored, and then the next round begins. Whoever's the scorekeeper should announce the team scores and what their required point count are. So there's a sliding scale. Everybody starts with a required point count of 125, and once you reach certain points, your required point count goes up to 155 and 180. We hope you enjoyed this refresher. We are having a Canasta Convention for players on October 11th and 12th. This is not a learn the game. This is for players that already know how to play. There'll be a strategy presentation, then social games, all levels, and then Sunday will be tournament play. Both days, continental breakfast, buffet lunch, drinks, and sweet treats. So this is a great opportunity to connect with other players and help build our canasta community. You can find out details on bit.ly/canastacon25, and the C in both canasta and con are capital. Our videos don't end here. We keep you connected when you join us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We are Modern American Canasta on all of those. Our group on Facebook is Modern American Canasta. So with that, we hope you have a great day and get all the cards you need in hand.